Welcome to the Naked and Sane podcast, where vulnerability and authenticity meets growth and healing. I'm your host, Kathiana, and I am here with a very special guest today. Her name is Cazz Easton. And I'm going to share a little bit about Cazz before we jump into the interview today. Cazz is the overseer of the New Visions of Life ministry. She holds the title of apostle. She's also a pastoral counselor, and she's been in that role for 20 years. She's also an entrepreneur, and she has three businesses: Cazz Easton Network, LC Fitness, and Rehabilitation. She is a certified personal trainer, certified health coach, and nutritionist. And she also is the owner of the Breed Love tax firm, where she is a tax advisor and preparer. Now, if that's not enough, she is a community activist. She is the president of two organizations, First Foot Forward and Parents in Motion. She is also the talk show host of the Cazz Easton Show. Cazz, you are a busy woman. Wow, that is impressive.
Yes, I am. And I'm getting ready to add two more titles when I'm done with my classes here.
Oh man, so I'm excited to see what those are. We have to have you come back on so you can talk about those. As I read off like all of your accolades and all of the things that you are invested in, what drove you to start these businesses and lend yourself to these organizations?
I am the overseer of New Visions of Life Ministry. A lot of people don't like me to say overseer. They want me to say pastor or something in that capacity. I said, no, I am the overseer. That's what it is. Yeah. And it actually birthed in 2011. But I always tell people that God tricked me to get started in 2002 when an altercation happened at the church I was in 2002. And I got mad and I left the church. And it was put on my heart that I had to go back and ask them for forgiveness. Not forgive them, forgive them, but actually go back there and ask them for forgiveness. Yeah. And I argued about that and I said, no, they wronged me and my family. I'm not doing that. And then when I finally surrendered, I said, well, I need to talk to my pastor and I haven't seen him. I signed up for entrepreneur training. And guess who my instructor was? My pastor. That's who it was. It was my pastor. And I said, well, I can't run now. And he was so happy to see me. And we had a conversation. And then I told him what God had put on my heart. And he said, well, if that's what God told you to do, then just let me know when you're ready. And I actually spoke one Sunday about forgiveness is what I did. And people called me the forgiveness lady. So I started off as being called the forgiveness lady because when I tell you it was truly a blessing. People came back the following Sunday and talked about how they had forgiven their family members. A couple people brought people there that they had forgiven. One young lady, her friend, she was crying. She said, if that lady can get up there, this is what she said about me. If that lady can get up there on the podium and ask a whole church for forgiveness, who am I not to forgive my friend?
Wow, such an inspiration. And it sounds like it moved a lot of people as well.
It did. That's so true. A lot of people told their testimonies. Well, I remember two in particular on the following Sunday, but after that, a lot of people told their testimonies of how they went back and they forgave their family and friends after that.
So how did it make you feel to know that you were that inspiration? And a lot of times forgiveness is very hard to do. And sometimes because, we can't forgive, sometimes that creates a lot of pent up energy and emotions, but it also can forever ruin a relationship if we're stuck at the forgiveness point. We can't forgive. So what did that mean to you to know that you had helped so many people by your message and getting up and being vulnerable and asking for forgiveness from the church.
I'll be honest, it felt so good for that weight to drop off my shoulders, number one, because that was heavy on me. It was actually controlling my life, because you had to understand, I was involved in my church, and to just stop. And I took my children out of all of the activities that they were a part of at the church as well. So it was a lot. It was a lot to endure at that time. And once that, after I did the message, one of the women that I really didn't want to forgive, she came up to me while I was still standing at the podium, and she hugged me and she cried on my shoulder, and she said, "I want to ask you to forgive me because I started all of this."
Wow.
So that felt good to get that out, and I was so glad when it was over.
I love to hear that. Let's dive a little bit into your journey, where you were, and where you are currently. And I know we'll be focusing a lot on self-love, self-care, worth, and all of those things, which is very good for us to prioritize and take care of that. But let's start from the beginning. When you made the decision to come on to the Naked and Sane podcast and share your story, what moved you to do that?
Actually, in the past, I'll say this, in the past, when I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, it actually helped me on my journey and with my journey, and it helped others as well. And that's what it's all about, is if we can come together and help each other, because it's something that I might be going through or something that I've overcome that you're still dealing with, and you can hear my story and my testimony, and it'll help you in your walk and in your journey as well. So it's sort of like a twofold blessing that I get the help that I need, because when I tell my story and tell about my journey, it also helped me to reflect back on how far that I have grown, and the things that I have overcome, and know that, hey, you're on the right track here. You're doing the right thing. You're right where you need to be. Because, sometimes on your journey, you question, am I still on the right road? Am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? And so this will help me as well.
So tell us, where does your journey start?
Some people know this because they're friends with me on social media, but I was almost kidnapped by my driver this year.
Sorry to hear that.
And going through that, when I tell you, it's like everything was thrown at me except the kitchen sink, and I felt like even the kitchen sink was hitting me
Oh my.
at that time. But going through that, just imagine you're trying to tell yourself, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, but knowing that it happened, and you're thinking about what could have transpired that day, and not being able to sleep. My eating patterns were off after that happened. And then for people, I started hearing lies being told about me after that. Things people were saying that I was saying, it was not true. So they was lying on me that I was saying things. They was telling lies about me. And it was a lot of people that I helped along their journey that was doing this. And so I said, you know what? I have a lot on my plate to deal with right now. With what happened to me, or what almost happened to me. And with all of this going on with family members and who I thought were friends, who should have been supporting me and embracing me and showing me love and empathy and compassion, I didn't get any of that. And that's sad, but I didn't get that from a lot of people. I got it from my children and a couple of my exes. But a lot of people, it's like it was my vulnerability moment. And they was, to me, they were saying, let's take advantage of her. She's vulnerable now. Let's break her.
That must have been tough to experience.
It was really tough. It was hard. And when I tell you, if it hadn't been for the grace of God, I wouldn't have made it through that, because it was hard enough, going through that ordeal on that day, and not knowing if I had to fight, but prepared to fight if I had to.
Right. How were you able to escape that situation?
I'll tell you a little bit about what happened, because I'm going to actually tell the full story. I haven't told the full story yet, but I was on my way somewhere, and I just, how you have this feeling that something is not right. I normally wouldn't ride. And so the first red flag to me was, he was on the side of the building when he picked me up. He didn't want to come to the front of the building where the cameras and everything was. It was a camera on the side, but I don't think he knew that. But it's like he was hiding or something. And I said, where are you? He said, I'm here. I said, I don't see you. And he said, I'm on the side of the building. I said, why are you on the side of the building and not in front of the building picking me up? And he said, well, I can come to the front of the building to pick you up. And so he came to the front of the building, and I was feeling kind of uneasy. And so we started driving, and he started saying things like, your perfume smells so good. You're a beautiful young woman. And I said, well, thank you. Nothing out of the ordinary. I've heard that plenty of times before. And he was like, I was like, okay, thank you. And so I'm fumbling around with my camera. I'm taking little pictures and stuff in the back seat. And the next thing I knew, I started feeling sick, like I wanted to throw up. And I said, I feel like I want to throw up. And the only time this happened to me is when I'm in danger. So I said, what's going on? And I looked up, and he was veering off the interstate that we were on onto another interstate. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, my GPS is rerouting me. I said, why would your GPS be rerouting you when we were on the correct route? Because I'm following your route. I see you were on the right route. He said, well, they're rerouting me for some reason. And the next thing I knew, he stopped. He stopped on the side of the interstate. And I said, stay here, because I feel like I need to throw up. And so I went to open the door to throw up, and he poured off. And I said, something is not right here. And I said, what are you doing? Where are you going? And next thing I know, we were going up and down hills, up and down hills. And I said, I don't know what you're doing, and I don't know where you're trying to take me, but I suggest you go back to the right road. And he said, look at my GPS. We're on the right route. They're telling me to go this way, only for me to find out later, didn't know where we were. We had gone off the radar. He veered off the interstate. And anger rose up in me. And I said, I was real mean at that point. And I was like, I suggest you take me to my destination. And he was driving faster than he was at first. I mean, we was going about 85, and this is on a residential street going up and down hills. I didn't know where I was. So I pulled up the route, and I said, I don't know what's your problem, but I need you to take me to my destination. He said, you want me to let you out on the side of the road? I said, no, you will not let me out on the side of the road. You will take me to my destination, because I don't know where I am. I pulled up the route. I said, I need you. And I was not saying it like I'm saying it calm now. I said, I'm going to tell you the route that my GPS is taking us to my destination. I suggest you take this route. Whatever I tell you to do, whatever turn, that's the turn I want you to take. Do you understand me? And he did what I told him to do. He took the route that I told him to take, and he took me to my destination.
You talked about vulnerability and how that kind of took a hit when you shared with people what you went through, shared with people your experience. But then you were not believed by the people who you thought should have been in your corner and should have been believing you and protecting you in that moment. Where are you now with those feelings and those people in your life?
Well, they believed me because I had, as we call it today, receipts that it happened, and it was the truth. But it's like when it happened, they didn't, it's not what they did to me didn't have anything to do with what believing or not believing what happened to me that day. They took advantage of the opportunity that I was vulnerable at that time. And
I
to me,
see.
they wanted to break me because they, they did some horrible, they tried to do some horrible stuff to me in that
Oh no.
vulnerable time in my life.
And it's unfortunate because sometimes, you know, we talk about vulnerability and we definitely promote that. And sometimes there are people who will try to take advantage of us in our most vulnerable state, in our most vulnerable moments.
Before I started my self-examination, so many times, even with going through that, someone said that I reached out to them and I wanted them to, they were in position to do something about what happened to me. They were in position, and they said that I reached out to them and I wanted them to do something about it. And I never once called this person. I never once had one conversation with this person. And this person had the audacity to say this in front of thousands of people: fix your face. And everyone knew he was talking about me. Fix your face.
What do you think he meant by fix your face?
I did a video and I told briefly what happened to me. And I was telling other women and children to be careful when they're riding Ubers and Lyft. And it's my facial expression because you got to understand it was fresh, it was new, it had just recently happened. And I looked like it was bothering me at that time.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And I'm glad God whispered, no, not fix your face. I'm getting ready to fix your crown.
Now you talked about self-reflection. Tell me what does that term mean to you?
Pretty much retro inspection, whereas I had to go inward. I took a self-examination of my life. How did I get here to where I am in my life? How did I get here? What did I do? What did I say? Did I let down my guards of anything? You know how you begin to question yourself. You begin to take a look at the person in the mirror and say, do I like what I see? Do I like what I'm even going through? I didn't like any of that at that point in time. When I did that self-examination, I didn't like any of it. And I said, I'm not going to let this situation or any other situation with anyone control my life. Let me get up and take the necessary steps for me. This is about me now.
Yeah.
Let me pour that love on the inside of me. Let me give myself the same love, compassion, and empathy that I have been giving everyone else. So I got up.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you were seeing from yourself that prompted you to take that self-examination?
Just putting everything together of what was going on in my life. I said to myself that I had allowed some disrespect that I shouldn't have. And I've always been zero tolerance and disrespect. If you disrespect me, you can talk to my backside. I'm going on. And I often would teach when someone tried to disrespect you, stop, exit right, vacate the premises. Don't look back. So I had pretty much let my guards down a little because I'm big on my values, my principles. And I'm like, what is it? Where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong? And I had made a decision because I didn't want to do something. I didn't want to make a decision that was against God's will for my life. Mm-hmm. So I decided to make a decision to go back somewhere where honestly I didn't want to go back there, but if that's where God wanted me to be, then I said, I'm willing to do this unto you, God. I really don't want to be over there, but if this is where you want me to be, then that's where I'll be. And in doing so, I think people looked at it differently than God leading me back there. And the disrespect started. And I sat through the disrespect and I said, what I would call an uncomfortable situation or uncomfortable moment. I sat through all of that. And to other people, I feel like they were thinking, well, we can disrespect her. We can do this. We can do that. And I'm like, okay, something has to change here because this is getting out of hand.
Do you feel like you were moving away from your values by, taking on that type of disrespect?
It was happening. And because I, number one, once again, didn't want to do something that was against God's will, but at the same time, I'm saying to myself, God would never allow me to go through this unless it's something that he wants to change about me or other people, so I'm going to go back, even though I used to cringe going back. I said, I'm going to continue to do it and continue to do it and continue to do it until God tells me otherwise or shows me otherwise. But in doing so, that's what started my self-examination. So I thank them. Today, I would say thank you. If they would see this video, I would say to all of you all that were involved, I want to say thank you, because in doing so, what you all tried to do to me, it helped with my growth. And I started back doing the things that I loved. I started journaling. I started back exercising. I had stopped everything. I wasn't taking any clients. I wasn't really even there for my clients that I had in any of those capacities of all of that you read off. I wasn't even there for me. Wow. So I couldn't be there for anyone else.
Right. When you talk about that experience of feeling disrespected, was that the experience that you were referring to earlier on with what happened within the church, or was it something different?
It was something different, but that was part of it as well. So I started my self-examination and I looked at myself and I said, you're stressing yourself out. Stop worrying. I wasn't eating a balanced meal. I was not exercising. I wasn't walking like I normally would do. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't taking time out for myself. I wasn't inhaling. I wasn't doing any of that.
And that's how you know that something is off, with your mental, and you need to take some time to reflect. Like you said, do a self-examination and try to figure out where did things kind of get off track and how can I pour into myself and get back on track. So that's great that you were able to identify that. So you talked about, not exercising, not journaling. Were there any other things that you just found yourself giving up because you were not in a good mental space?
I'm part of a lot of different organizations where I'm a member, and I was not showing up for any events. I didn't show up for any events or anything. I was just to myself, but not in a good way.
Would you
That's
say
what
you
I was
started to
doing.
isolate?
Isolation. That's exactly what was going on. And even I was short, even with my children, when they would call me, and they would be like, "I just called you. Are you ready to get off the phone already?" Yes, I just want to be by myself right now. I didn't say that, but that's how I felt. I would just say something like, I was in the middle of something when you called, but just wanted to know what was going on since you called me, what was going on. You know, so I'll say something like that. But no, I just wanted to be by myself. I didn't really want to be bothered. So I was like, I have to get out of this. Like, do I want this to progress? Do I want it to stay the way it's going? Or do I want to take the necessary steps to get better? I took door number 2.
How were you able to climb out of that space that you were in, that you did not like, that was, you know, shifting your life so much? What did that offer to you?
That's when self-care kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
I said I need an overhaul.
Yeah.
In my mental, my physical, my emotional, my spiritual, and my financial. Because everything was out of whack and out of sync. So I started, the first thing I did was self-love. I poured that love back on the inside of me that I tried to give to everyone else. And took accountability for my past mistakes and the decisions and choices that I made that led me to be where I was at that given moment.
So tell me a little bit about the accountability piece. Like, what steps did you take to hold yourself accountable? Because a lot of people talk about accountability, but aren't really necessarily holding their own feet to the fire when it comes to that. And sometimes it's easier to hold somebody else accountable than to hold yourself accountable. So what did that look like for you? What was that process for you?
I started doing just what I said that I needed to do. Stop, exit right, and vacate the premises. If you can't respect me, then guess what? You just gonna have to see my backside. That was major for me. That took a lot of courage to stand. That was taking a stand and standing up for myself. No, I'm not going to accept this. No, I don't have to go through this. No, I don't have to tolerate this. I'm not anyone's doormat. I'm not their punching bag. You're not going to sit here and mistreat me. It's not happening. This is so ungodly, and God would not put me in position whereas I have to tolerate this. So I took a stand for my own life and for myself and say, no, I'm not letting this happen anymore. If I have to do this, and if this is where God wants me to be, you all will respect me. I don't have to tolerate that disrespect from you.
I hear that. And it sounds too like the accountability came in with the boundaries that you set for yourself in those situations. Yeah. Did you ever find it difficult to set those boundaries and stick to those boundaries? Because boundaries can be hard to set sometimes. And especially when we find ourselves in a space where we may accept more than what we're used to accepting, it can be hard to kind of go backwards to the place that you started. So what was that experience like for you? Did you have any challenges with setting those boundaries and sticking to them?
It was hard setting them, and it's very difficult sticking to them, but I have stuck with it thus far, and I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have access to me, and it bothers them that they don't have access to me anymore. And it's because of those boundaries that I set. If you, like I said, if you can't respect me, because I remember I told you I used to be zero tolerance. When it came down to disrespect, I was zero tolerance, and I'm back like that. I'm zero tolerance. If you can't respect me, then you don't need to be in my presence. Because honestly, if I'm disrespecting you, then I don't need to be in your presence. I'm not here to discourage people. I'm here to encourage, uplift people, motivate and inspire people, not tear people down. So if I'm not doing it to other people, then why would I allow someone else to do it to me?
And what benefits did you see from setting those boundaries? Because yes, boundaries can be hard to set, and yes, they can be difficult to follow through with. But there can be some benefits to setting those boundaries. What were those for you?
The first peace, I got my peace back.
Yes.
I got my power back. I took back my power. Because when people are disrespecting you and feel comfortable disrespecting you, that's a sign of control, and you don't want other people controlling you. So I took my power back. I took my peace back and my purpose. That had me off balance. That's like a derailed train, ready for a train wreck or something. So I got my purpose back. And like I was telling you before, earlier, when we were in conversation, it's like when I decided to get back up and do what I knew in my heart that I should have been doing, that doors were just opening one after another, and after another, and after another. And it's continuing, even today.
What self-care activities do you practice? And tell me a little bit about your self-care routine. How do you apply it?
I journal now. I exercise now more. I haven't opened up for any new clients. I'm going to do that here shortly, but right now I have to continue to work on me, setting goals and achieving, attainable goals and short-term goals that I can attain and achieve, in a matter of 2 weeks or a month. And it feels so good to look back and say, I did that.
Ooh, yeah,
I accomplished that. So things like that. And it feels so good. And to get my smile back, to get my glow back, I feel so much better. So much better. That self-confidence that kicked in and saying, hey, I know I can do this. I can attain this. I can achieve this. And so it's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. And I bet you your children appreciate that too, because they can definitely tell the changes.
That is so true. But they say I'm a little bit too busy for them now because I'm working on me now. Even though I do give them time, we talk for hours. When I do talk to my children, we talk for hours. But they're glad that I am attending events again, and I am doing things for me, things that I enjoy, things that I like. And once again, it's really a beautiful thing. And I did a message on Facebook. I think it was like maybe about 3 weeks ago. And I was looking at myself in the camera and I said, oh gosh, I'm beginning to look like me again. And I started laughing, but I'm getting back to me, who I am. And I love it. I love it, the person who God created me to be.
And so I know you talked a little bit about your purpose and what is that for you? What have you discovered is your purpose?
Well, one thing that I do know my purpose is I am a teacher, or some would say an educator by nature. So I'm getting ready to start doing speaking engagements again. I had stopped. I used to host women conferences. One of the things that I'm going to start back, and I was working on putting together a panel. I put it on pause, and it's time for me to pick that back up because there's people out there, they're waiting on us. They're needing this information so that they can feel better about themselves. Just like I was going through my phase and what was happening to me. Just imagine if we do a panel and invite others to come on, they can resonate or relate to what we're saying, and it can help them as well. It can help them get up.
And that's what it's all about. It's about having these conversations, encouraging people to prioritize their mental health, themselves, encourage them to pour into themselves because we can't pour into anybody else if we're working on fumes. We don't have it to give. So, Cazz, tell me a little bit about, you talked about your purpose and you know that you feel like you're an educator at heart. And you kind of shared a little bit about like what you are looking forward to doing in the future. What would be one message that you would share to the person who you were or the person that you felt like wasn't in the best place? What message would you share to that person today?
Today, I would say, get up, get up, and get moving.
Yeah.
Not only get up and get moving, keep moving forward
Mm-hmm.
and don't look back. Only if you're looking back to be a better you
Mm-hmm.
than you were today.
No, that's very powerful. And so I want to go back to the self-care stuff too. So you talked about journaling. I want to touch on this because I get mixed feelings from people. Some when I'm in my counseling sessions and I'm talking to people about different coping skills. Um, Sometimes people resonate with journaling, other times not so much. So, what did journaling do for you? How do you feel like you embraced it, and how did you respond to that?
It helped me say some of the things that I actually wanted to say to other people. I was able to write them down. So I got it out.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
my way of getting it out. And that's how I started. Everything that I want to say to other people, I wrote it down. Things that I wanted to change about me, the goals I wanted to set, the growth that I wanted to see in myself, the achievements. I started just writing myself little notes and messages. So I said stuff to me. I wrote down the things I wanted to say to other people. That's how I started. And then I just started thanking God every day, just writing it down. God, I thank you for this happening. God, I thank you for this. God, I thank you for this growth. God, I thank you for opening my eyes so that I can see this situation and what this situation is doing, either to help me or to try to hurt me. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to say thank you. And that's what I do now. I have 3 journals, and that's what helped me. And it'll help you get it out, because a lot of times you're stressed and you're depressed because there's a lot on the inside of you that you want to say and you want to get out, but you don't know how to say it. You don't want to hurt other people, and you don't want to your words and what you're saying to be misconstrued, because people
Mm-hmm.
do that. They'll take your
Yeah.
words and they'll turn them into what they think that they feel that they're
Mm-hmm.
saying, and that's not what you're really saying. So journaling helped me to just say it out
Mm-hmm.
loud, pretty much. Got it out of me.
Yeah.
Even if that meant writing it on paper, it came out. So it was
Yes.
no longer hindering me, or I didn't have that bitter root on the inside of me anymore, because I just released it.
And yes, that's definitely one of the benefits that come along with journaling. And so tell me about this. Like you said, you had 3 journals. What type of journals do you have, and how do you use them?
One of them is strictly about, it's different sections. And in those different sections, you say it's asking you to tell God something you want him to know. Like he's not
Mm-hmm.
omniscient, but so I write it all down. On the other one, I fill it out, the
Mm-hmm.
information out, what I want to say or what I want to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is just a lot of self reflection, just going back and looking back at some of the things that I had gone through and some of the coping skills and mechanisms that I used along the way. And that
Mm-hmm.
helped me even today. When I go back and
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I say, okay, this is what I did then. Let me try that now and see if that'll help me with what I'm going through right now.
And when you are reading and reflecting on your journaling, how does that help you? What does that do for you?
It actually makes me feel good. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it makes me see how far I've come since I started journaling.
Mm-hmm.
Is once again, I see my growth. That's why I wore my little growth T-shirt.
Yes, I love that.
So because it just shows me my growth, and it helps me.
Cazz, is there anything else that you feel like you want to share about self-care and self-worth and about your story and your journey?
I'm glad I took a stand for me and started the self reflection and self examination, or retro inspection, if you will. Started working on my internal, and doing that, it reminds me of joy. Joy is on the inside and it shows up on the outside. And when you do a self-examination or reflection, you're working on yourself internally. And when you do that, it actually shows up externally. People will see the changes in you, especially the people that really know you and know some of the things that you are going through. Even the people that was trying to break you, they see a change in you. Be like, wait a minute, I thought I had her. I thought she was. Look at her now.
Yep.
Look at her now. I needed those footstools.
Yeah.
I needed that ladder to elevate me. And I'm thankful for the elevation. I'm thankful for the path that God has me on right now. I'm grateful. I'm ever so grateful for this journey. When I was going through it and the way I was feeling, when I was going through my struggles, my test, if you will, it wasn't a good feeling at all. And to look back on then and then to fast forward to now and seeing how far I've come or how far God has brought me, I feel so much better.
Well, Cazz, do you have anything that's coming up or anything that you want to just tease us with about what's coming up for you or what your plans are for the future?
I'm revamping my Cazz Eastern network. And in doing so, I want to say this to the audience. If you have a business, if you have something that you're passionate about and you want to introduce it to the world, be a part of my network once I'm done revamping it. Bring your business, bring your passion, bring your podcast, bring your short films to the network. Let's build a community.
That is wonderful. You are the host of the Cazz talk show. Where can people find the Cazz show?
I'm not doing anything right now. I've done some videos in the past where I did it sort of like a podcast type ordeal like you're doing here. And they can find that if they go on my Facebook, Cazz Easton. I'm Cazz Easton on Facebook.
Okay.
Or you can even type in Cazz Easton Show. And you'll be able to see some of my old videos and podcasts that I did. I used to be on Blog Talk Radio, but all of those have been taken down. I wish they were still up. We used to have so much fun. I did it as a radio talk show on one of the local radio stations. That was a lot of fun as well. But now I have a bigger vision for it that someone told me last year. Don't talk about you want to do this. I want you to just do it. And I'm here to support you. So right now, I'm in the process of that. I have meetings set up so I can get going with the Cazz Eastern Show. Just stay tuned. Follow me on my social media platforms.
That's going to be wonderful. I can't wait to see what you have in store. So, Cazz, where can people find you? What are your handles?
Cazz Easton on Facebook, at Boss Lady Cazz on Instagram, and also on TikTok, on YouTube. And you all go follow me on YouTube. You can reach me on Cazz Easton Show, Cazz Easton Network. You put any of that in and I will come up on YouTube.
Well, thank you so much, Cazz, for taking the time to sit with us and talk to us about self-care and self-worth and sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It really has.